In last month's show, we presented you with a clinic in which touring pros David Feldberg, Paul Macbeth, Garrett Gurthie, and Brad Schick demonstrated techniques to help you improve your game. This month, we bring you another clinic on the PDGA National Tour. Get ready as touring pros at the 2011 Pittsburgh Flying Disc Open help you to improve your game as Disc Golf Monthly starts now. Welcome to another edition of Disc Golf Monthly, as we bring you another pro player clinic held this time at the Pittsburgh Flying Disc Open on the PDGA National Tour. Once again, a foursome of touring pros are going to give a group instruction followed by individual step-by-step instructions. The clinic will again be led by Innovadisc sponsored player David Feldberg. So let's go over to David Feldberg, who will MC the introductions of the event.
All right, welcome. Welcome to the National Tour Clinic Series. This is the Pittsburgh stop. This is going to be fun. It looks like we have a good turnout. We're going to have all kinds of opportunity for answer questions, and we have some tickets for you to win a raffle, but we'll give you those at the end. My name's Dave Feldberg. Most of you know me as one of the top disc golfers in the world, but really I'm a teacher of disc golf. I have a master's in sports education, and I teach disc golf all over the world. So if you have any questions or any concerns, you can ask me throughout the tournament or anytime I'm in Pittsburgh, and I'll go over what we went over in the clinic. Today we're lucky. We have a really good staff. We have Nikko Locastro. He's won a few majors now, and he's the second-ranked player in the world. He's going to do putting, and he's probably the best putter in the world, so you'll get some good advice, I hope. Then we went from the best putter and the best player to the farthest thrower in the world. We got Garrett Gurthie. He just threw a disc 803 feet. Ouch. Yeah, that's pretty far, right? He came.
And I think I broke that in Barbados.
We just got back from Barbados, interdistant disc golf to Barbados. Garrett threw one, we think about 950. Yep. But it wasn't official or anything, but his field was about 880 feet, and he threw it out of the field into the rural neighborhood. So.
I couldn't even believe it. Really.
So if you can believe it, he's going to teach us distance, not putting. But we'll see if we can throw it from up here over those trees. Yeah. We also have Sarah Hokom. She's sponsored by Discraft. She's the queen of the lake. She won the last national tour we had on the schedule. She's going to be teaching her patented sidearm. She has probably the farthest and most accurate sidearm in women's disc golf. So it's a real treat to have someone who uses sidearm in their game teach. A lot of times we just have us talking about how to do a sidearm at these clinics. We actually have someone who uses it and does well with it. The order tonight is going to be Niko going first in putting. So if you have your putters, get 2 putters and follow Niko to that bucket, and we'll see you down there.
We have to take a break, but when we return, we will have putting tips from Nikko Locastro and more at the 2011 Pittsburgh Flying Disc Open Pro Player Clinic.
For years, Disc Outfitters has been your online resource for taking care of all your disc golf needs, including creating custom-made disc golf apparel for tournaments and clubs. Get ready for the DO Days monthly event at the Rockbrim Branch Disc Golf Course, as well as the DO Series Point League. For more info, stop in at their disc golf warehouse at 9691 Columbia, Maryland, or call or click today.
Welcome back to Disc Golf Monthly's coverage of the 2011 PDFO Pro Player Clinic. During this segment, Nikko Locastro will demonstrate putting skills and drills, followed by a sidearm tutorial by Discraft sponsored player Sarah Hokom, and then distance tips from Garrett Gurthie and David Feldberg, both sponsored by Innovadiscs. So let's return to the action.
I like to do kind of a fan grip with my 3 fingers right here and my 4th finger just basically on the rim right here, like this. You want it to be pressed in the palm of your hand and your thumb just about an inch or an inch and a half on the top. The arm movement, you basically want to line up your shot with your arm directly in front of you first. This is just what I like to do. I like to visualize my line a couple times before I actually release the disc. So I want to do a straight up and down motion with my arm a couple times, and just kind of pitch it out in front of me and get that basic technique down. And then with your lower body, you always want it to be stern. I like to do straddle putts often because I feel like my body's nice and stern, and everything's really comfortable with the straddle putt. So I'll start off with a straddle. Basically, an up and down motion is what you're always looking for. You line it up, come back and forth, and then have a nice high release. That's what I like to stress out to people a lot. Because if you're ever watching a disc golf video and you see somebody miss, a lot of times it's because they didn't extend their shot all the way through. And that's about the most important thing that I could talk about, is extending your release so you're always reaching for your target.
Real quick, Niko, how many people here have played disc golf for more than 6 months? How many people have played for less than 6 months? Okay. Real quick, can you, since we have such a different level, can you go over like just setup of it?
Okay. For straddle putts, if I'm going to line up, if I have a mini, do you guys have a mini? I like to line up directly behind my mini with my left foot and then have my right foot never pass this mark. You have a straight line that goes 90 degrees this way. So you never want to be off-centered. You always want to be slightly behind on this. That's why I do this kind of stance. And this is a basic straddle putt where you're square with the target instead of a straight up and down putt where you're looking at it like this. And a lot of times you're on a side of a hill or a cliff, and on hillsides I use straddle putts more often than not. Like I'm talking about, my lower body is going to be stern, and that's what's going to give you the confidence. You don't ever want to be off balance and shaky. You want everything to be nice and calm before you release the disc. But basically, I'll go through it again. I always start off short. So straight up and down motion and a little pitch at the end. And make sure you get a good high release with it, or else you're not going to make them.
What do you do with the release with your index finger?
With the index finger, it seems like I'm kind of popping it off my wrist with this style putt. I don't really like it when the finger's on the outside. A lot of people start off and they think that's a comfortable grip. They have their finger on the outside, but a more consistent release, from what I've seen from other top pros and myself, is you curl it just under this. And some people have longer hands or smaller hands, but you always want your 4 fingers underneath the rim on the putt, like this.
So if you look at the bead, everybody has a bead on their putter, pretty much. It fits right there in the groove of your finger. And he said depending on the length is how much it hangs over. If you put it in there, you're always in the same spot, and that's what they designed the bead for. It wasn't for flight characteristics, it was to give you a guide, so when you release the disc, the least amount of restriction comes off your finger. If you have it flat, it comes off a different part every time. So if you just put it on that groove, then you can put his grip and it's comfortable.
And the best way to get good at putting quick is to start off short, because this is where you're going to build your confidence. Even though it might seem ridiculous, I'll practice these in the morning of a tournament, but I like to do them in a line like this. I put one disc here, the next here, and the next here, and I'm trying to develop a routine where I'm always doing the same thing. That's why I like to do this practice exercise. So I'll start off, I always want to have a routine. You don't ever want to be off balance, so basically I'm going to start off short and try to do the exact same thing on every single one of these putts right here. But there are some different angles that you want to practice. I'll go ahead and talk about that for a slight second before I like the hyzer putt, because that's what's the most consistent for me. The frisbee always wants to seem to die left, so the hyzer is when the left side of the disc, being a right-hander, is facing down to the left, and that's what's going to make it drop. It's traveling flat, and then for the last second with a hyzer putt, it's diving in the basket. So that's what I like to start off. It's good to practice hyzer putt, flat putts, and hyzers, because you're always going to run into a different kind of putt. I'll go ahead and show you the different angles so it'll be easier to see. I'll do the basic hyzer putt first, and then I'll try a flat putt, which is just going to come dead center straight on the pole. Just going through the motions with you so I can talk about it out loud. Up and down motion is what I like. I don't like to line my shot up over here to the right or line it up over here to the left. So I start off looking dead center at the target, and all I'm thinking about is an up and down line and a good level release. So I'll try a flat putt it.
So your leg is out of the way when you bring back, right?
Yeah, yeah, with this open stance like that.
So that lines you square with the target.
Yeah. There's different stances that work for different people, and it's not saying that there's only one way to putt, because all the top players in the world, it seems like all their routines are slightly different, their angles are different, so it's about developing a routine that works for each individual person. That's why I'm talking about starting off close, and then you want to do the same thing whenever you're 30 feet away, 20 feet away, or 50 feet away. You're looking for the same type of motion. But then I'll go ahead and do the Anheuser putt, so you know there's all these different angles to work with. This is sometimes the hardest one for me, but you need to know your angles, especially when it gets windy. I always like to check and see which way the wind's coming, because the wind's going to react differently to the angles of your putt. Basically,
Snap your wrist?
on my wrist?
Snap the wrist?
Yeah. I like to get a nice pop at the end of my shot, and Dave talks about a lot in his clinics, starting off slow and going quicker as your routine starts. So everything's nice and slow and stern when you watch. And then at the last second, that's where I'm developing that pop. I'm starting off slow with my routine so everything's comfortable. And at the last second, I'm getting that little bit of pop because I'm reaching for it. I'm not going to stop my arm right here. I'm always going to try to extend where I'm reaching up high where it has a chance to go in. If you watch yourself miss slow, you'll probably just feel it right here in front of you. But when you have a good level, high release, it always has a chance to fall back in the basket. So that's another important thing, is understanding that as you move back a little bit further, from shorter putts to longer putts, this is just a short little jab at it. And then I'm stepping back, and I'm going to put a little bit of loft on my disc, because you know it's heavy enough to drop, and if you practice enough, you're supposed to know what each individual disc does in your bag. So I've been practicing these putts quite a bit. Hopefully I can just keep making them and look like a genius on the video. So from back here, again, a high release so it has a chance to go in. Thing I could stress about is always giving your putts a chance to go in. And the best way to do that is with a good release. You want to extend your arm. It's really important to always extend your arm because you're finishing it. You're trying to finish and be done with the putt. You don't want to short arm it and get a little scared of the putt. You're trying to give it a chance to go in by extending your arm through the change. You're trying to create a straight line that starts at the end of your hand that goes directly through this hole. You don't want them to spit out, of course, but visualizing the shot is more important than I could stress. You want to see it go, you want to see it happen over and over in your mind before you actually release it. You're visualizing your exact putt. A little bit of hyzer, fall in the basket.
All right, well, let's get a round of applause for Nikko Locastro. Thanks, Niko. Before we move on, I want to talk about a couple things that Niko's doing that are more biomechanical, that so you could take them home and practice them. Yep. If you were watching what Niko did, the most consistent thing that happened when he did, there's two things you must pay attention to become a good putter. And they are making sure that when you move your right arm forward, you've timed it so that your left leg goes backwards. And if you noticed, every time he leaned forward with his right arm, as soon as it came up, his left leg matched. If you don't bring your left leg up at the exact same time of the arm, you don't get a counterbalance. You'll be leaned one way or the other, and you won't be able to be very consistent. Does anybody have any questions about that? The other very important thing that Niko's doing, and that's what he said, you could do any kind of putting you want. Everybody's slightly different. But one thing that they all have in common is they never take the disc off the line. So if you looked at him, he kept holding it out like this, and when he brings it back, it's on a line. Yeah. See that line he's on? If you're looking, Ken Climo turns like this, but he holds the line. Nathan Doss is like this, but it's on this straight line. See this line? If you have a stroke that takes your arm off the line, whether you go like this or something like that, or you come under like this, you have a lot less chance of being able to make it because you have to release it right back on the line. And so some days you make 10 out of 10, other days you make 5 out of 10 with the same putter at the same course on the same basket. You can't figure out what it is. Well, the reason is because that day you're releasing just a second later or earlier and not getting back to the line. So if you can keep your disc on a line from the pole through you, called the line of play, and if it never comes off that line when you're putting, it's hard to miss left and right. That's really the key to becoming a good putter. And finally, I heard the question, I want to make sure you understand it. How he gets the momentum on it besides the swing and the speed increase, he's not popping his wrist. He's not spinning his wrist, he's not moving his wrist at all. It looks like he's moving his wrist, and that's why people try to do that when they're putting. When your hand is curled and you're under the disc, your hand will look like this in the grip that he gave you. So you'll look like this. What happens is, when he comes up, all he does is open his hand. By opening his hand, it moves his fingers to the right, and it looks like this motion people try to imitate. But really, he's holding it, and he just opens his hand, and it looks as if he's opening his wrist. So that's really key, to spring your fingers and not move your wrist left to right. Does that make sense to everybody? All right, thanks Niko. Now we're gonna move on to Sarah Hokom. She's gonna show you her sidearm, and I'm excited. I think I'm about to learn something myself, so.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming out. This is it's awesome. This is the biggest clinic I think I've seen.
Yeah, looks like a great turnout.
So I throw sidearms, pretty much only sidearms. There's a backhand hole, I throw a sidearm. So one of the few people that does that, but it works for me, so I'm gonna try to help you guys develop your forehand, sidearm, flick, whatever you want to call it. Who's ever thrown a sidearm, flick, forehand, whatever, ever in their life? Ever in your life, have you ever thrown one? So the big concept on the forehand, I think, I relate it to skipping a rock on a lake. I relate it to a tennis racket, a forehand on a tennis racket. I also relate it to baseball. One of the girls that I was trying to help at one point, she loved it when her run-up, she would practice, she'd act like she was fielding a ball, and then she would get in her stance like she's throwing to first base, and that's how she would start it. She would do that before every throw. So those are kind of the big concepts. But there is a lot of technicality to it. I'm going to start with the grip. I use a 2-finger grip. It's kind of like this, like a gun in my hand. I tuck it in on the edge and I kind of torque it back a little bit. So the thumb is on the top. My 4th and 5th fingers are kind of just tucked. They're not really doing a whole lot. Most of the momentum is coming off of the middle of my middle finger, and then I'm also scraping the disc a little bit here. That's where my calluses are. So with the grip, the 2 fingers, what I do. Other people do other things. Sarah Stanhope, she won the Vibram last year. She does a split grip, and this is more of a controlled grip. I don't think that it makes it fly as far, but you definitely can control the flight plate a little better to keep it at the angle that you're trying to release it. Whereas if you have 2 stacked, you're more likely to tip that angle inadvertently. Some people I've also seen throw 1 finger. They're using that first finger, throwing it like this. I think this is the least controllable, but sometimes some people it works. So good luck with that. But other people I've seen do kind of like a claw. They kind of grip it with 2 fingers tucked on the inside without them being flat. I do keep it flat like a gun on my grip. In the backswing of the forehand, some people have a lot of different things. I try to keep it simple. My backswing, I keep it very tight. I'm only coming back a little ways, whereas some people I see, they're coming all the way back and they're like, I'm gonna throw this really far. And that's awesome if you can control the Frisbee from way out here to get a flat angle at your release point. But I would say if you're just starting off, try to keep it simple. Keep your elbow in and tight, and don't swing it too far back. Avery Jenkins is known for this thing, and that's great. And in the end, I think we could all do that and get more momentum. But at first, I would say keep a short backswing. On the run up, a lot of times I don't always have to run up. I think you get a lot of torque on a forehand without running up. But the run up is kind of like shuffling in basketball. If you ever had to shuffle to get, with your defender, it's kind of like that. It's a 2-step shuffle. I'm a righty, so my left side is facing my target. So my two-step shuffle. And then that's when you're following. Release point. I have a hit point where everything in my body comes together all at once. I'm starting here, kind of lining my shot up. My hit point happens after my two-step shuffle, when my elbow and my hips all come around together. And this is the point where you release. At that point, you follow through, yada yada. But the hit point is really important. And I see a lot of people not getting distance because they are out of sync with their body. So your hips have to come around together there. And at that same time, your elbow is actually coming through forward and leading it. But when you hit that point, it's pretty flat. I see a lot of people throwing it a little bit like this, trying to throw it like a baseball. But really, when you look at that, when you're trying to throw it like that, the front of your hand is kind of facing this area. When you really want, it's like a karate chop. Like you really want the side of your hand to be your hit point. So it's like chop, you know, like if you're chopping something in half. It's a key I like to use because a lot of people try to roll their wrist over and throw it like a baseball. I guess I'll just throw a few.
We should probably go down towards the bottom of the hill.
So I think the hardest part is to get it flat and getting your hit point so that your mechanics all match each other. So really pay attention to our follow through. I'm trying to go forward through it. I think that's also something that people, when they're on their follow through, if they don't go forward, they tend to do this and they kind of, the flight just goes up. So you should be going forward through it. So I don't know, anybody have any questions? Like,
Someone's got a question about sidearm, don't they?
Yeah, I got a question. There you go. When you put your fingers on there, is it right up against the frisbee or are you out?
It's right up against the rim. Right. Yep, it's almost, I feel that pressure. I'm kind of pulling back on it to get a little torque, you know?
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you do?
So I have to throw a lot of Anheisers.
Yeah.
I throw an understable disc, and I throw it either, it's understable, so it's going to flip no matter what. I throw it either at a hyzer or flat to get the right flip. It's hard angle sometimes and puts me in a bad position where I really want to throw backhand, but I'm working on that too. So I'm going to release, this is pretty flippy, so I'm going to release it at a hyzer angle, and it should flip down the hill. But you can also do an S shot. This is a slightly understable. A couple things that I see though. I see a lot of people when they're throwing them that they're all set up and then they do this at the last minute and they're rolling that wrist over. That's a really common thing. Keep it with the karate chop. Like think of yourself as a karate chopper. We're doing karate. It's really that elbow in, and this is the flat part. This part of your hand is leading. It's not this part of your hand. I'm really going from here to here. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not gonna roll it forward. Just like in a backhand, you don't want to roll it forward. The forehand grip is also really useful for rollers and Tommies. It's the same exact grip. If you don't know how to do any of those trick shots, it's a lot of fun to be able to roll through the woods, or if you've got no lie in front of you, you have to go over something, you can use the same exact grip. So I use a lot like a tomahawk, throw it at like, let's see, 10 o'clock or so. You've got a nice predictable shot.
That's gonna be really useful here in Pittsburgh on your courses.
And a roller, same thing, same grip. I'm gonna throw it, trying to find an angle where it's gonna roll as far as possible. It should come down at about 2 o'clock, and usually it works.
All right, let's get a round of applause for Sarah. I think I'll go next. So I'm going to talk about just some backhand techniques today, how to get more accuracy, more consistency, and it takes hours upon hours just to cover the material it takes to go over a backhand drive. So for me to give it to you in 10-15 minutes is kind of almost overwhelming. So what I'm going to do is pick 2 or 3 things that I really want to concentrate on, and then when you get to my station afterwards, I'll just give you some one-on-one and I can tell you what you need to work on, okay? So, basic grips, everybody varies, but the theory is there's 2 grips, a power grip and a modified fan grip. Power grip is any grip where you put the fingers on the rim of the disc. So, how I do it is like this. I put 2 fingers tucked, 2 fingers flat, but they're all on the rim. The keys to the grip is to make sure that your thumb is over top of your index finger as if you're picking up a fork or you're picking up something off the ground. Now, one thing I see a lot is that everybody talks about this snap. And that comes when most of the pressure is in the front of the grip, because the fingers come off early the back and then they slap back into the hand. Grip is actually drag, and if you hear this loud snapping noise, you're probably not getting the maximum of your throw. When you go see throwers like Garrett Gurthie next, and Will Schustrick, and some of these really far throwers, you hear nothing but the change of wind as it flies by you. There's no snapping noise, okay? And how they are accomplishing that is that they're using the strongest muscle in their hand, which is the thumb muscle. This muscle up here, the index finger, it operates the top side of your forearm, and that gives you a lot of strength, and that's what most people use. But if you use your thumb muscle, which is stronger, and that muscle, you use both sides, and you'll use what you would use for curling, which is the really strong forearm muscle. So how you accomplish that is when you pick up the disc and you have it in your hand, you don't just squeeze with your thumb, leaving this gap that most people have. You put it flush in your hand and you squeeze down with this muscle into your pinky. And that gives you another point of pressure. So this would be point 1, the index and thumb would be point 2, and the 2 fingers in the middle would be point 3, pushing out the back of your hand. East, west, north, south for complete grip. So let's talk about the line of the throw. This is really the key to becoming a good, consistent driver. What people do is just like putting, that there's an imaginary line that runs from where you're throwing, wherever you want the disc to fly, to infinity. And you can never take the disc off the line if you want to have a consistent throw. So about 90% of disc golfers that I meet do the exact same thing. They reach back with the disc, they bring their elbow across their chest as they saw or taught, they get into this position right here. Then they twist the left hip and left leg and arm and throw the shot, okay? Well, what happens there, as you can clearly see, is that I had a disc on a line, I wanted to throw it there. I brought it down the line, and when I got to where I was going to release it, I took it off the line. See, I took it away from my body. And the only chance I had of throwing a good shot was if I got right back to the line when I let go. And that's the day you shoot 6 under. But the days you shoot 6 over, like I was saying about the putting, are the days that you pull it down the line and you twist and you let go here, or you let go there. And you have to be really good to let go in that little space. So if you look at the top throwers, we're not relying on trying to hit that little space, because we would never be able to make a living at this, because we need consistency to win tournaments. And I know that you don't maybe plan on becoming all top golfers and making a living out of it, but what you want to do to have more fun is be more consistent. So when you reach back to throw your backhand, you have to have, you'll get to the same position that everybody knows, right here. What has to happen next is you have to look at my right foot, okay? Anybody get out of this basket arm? This way here. So come back, my right foot's up, I'm on my right toe. Everybody's getting to this position. You go, they land on their toe or flat foot, but instead of turning like this, off the line, the top players are turning their foot. They're going toe to heel, and then they're opening their heel and keeping the disc on the line. Then they're able to throw the disc right down the line that they reached back on. And that's the real key. Most people who do the rotation, what I call rounding, when they get to this point, they rotate on their toe. Rotate on their toe and follow through real pretty. What you want to do is rotate from toe to heel, twisting the heel open and keeping the disc on the straight line. If you're throwing a hyzer, like I said, it's the line that you're throwing. So there's a hyzer. Even though I'm lined up here, I want to throw that way. So I draw an imaginary line to there. So now I have to reach back to there, not on a straight line. And now I'm never going to take it off the line. Get to that position, I rotate my heel, and it's on that straight line. Same thing with the anhyzer, right? I'm going to throw it that way. So I have to reach over here, not back. Most people reach back and then rotate and round. These guys reach back to the line. They pull to the heel. They rotate open and throw it on anhyzer. Does that make sense to everybody? It's a lot to take in and try to change. But here's the ways I can recommend for you to do so. What you want to do is go get yourself a stretchy band. Equalizer or a ISO throw, a disc band, one from a hardware store. They're $8.99. They stretch, use them for working out. Tie it to something, put a hole in your disc and wrap it around and tie a knot. Some of the fancy ones come where a disc just inserts, okay? What you need to do is you'll attach it to something, and when you're practice pulling, you'll be able to pull it here very comfortably. As soon as you take it off the line, you'll feel this resistance in your forearm. That means that you're taking it off the line. At a distance where it starts to stress your forearm here, you'll be able to go like this with lots of ease. And you'll feel very comfortable pulling the disc down the line. If you take it off, you'll feel this resistance, okay? So the keys to take home are, as you reach back, you go from your toe to your heel. And when you go to rotate, you rotate from heel back to toe, not just a toe rotation. And the reason I went next is because when Garrett goes, I want you to watch this particular thing. It's going to be hard not to watch him throw it and chase the disc 800 feet and your eyes are going to watch it. But I really want you to pay attention how he goes from toe to heel to toe. And if he throws hyzer and hyzer, that toe ends up pointing in the exact line where he wants the disc to fly. Okay? Any questions? Like I said, I could go for hours and hours and hours, but there's one last thing I want to say. When you're doing it, just like in putting, you have to go from really slow to really fast, and you don't want to move your head. This is going to help a lot of you. Just like in ball golf, if you're going to line up over your swing, right? If as you go back and you're on your straight leg, as you come through, if you look up, chase the ball, you don't hit the ball. Trust me, it's a bad habit I had as a kid. You have to stay down over the left foot and maintain the contact point, looking through the shot, waiting for your right shoulder to rotate and come up. In disc golf, we have the exact same thing, but it's on the right foot if you're right-handed. So as you pull through and you go toe to heel, your chin should be tucked at this point. You go toe to heel, your chin's right over the right foot. As you open and rotate, you keep your chin over the right foot and you throw. Not until you rotate your left shoulder do you come up and look at the shot. It'll be out there. I know it's hard to do. Just in ball golf, it's hard to trust it. But that's why in the rule book it says when you're playing in a round of disc golf, everybody in your group must watch your shots. That's the point. So they'll see it and you'll be much more happy with the reward when you see where it lands. Okay? Last chance for questions for me for right now.
How much of the power comes from your upper body twisting?
It's actually shifting.
The arm and the weight shift?
Yeah, it's actually a shift. In this situation, the rounding is the twisting. People want to twist the left hip. And when you watch Garrett in a minute, you're going to see that he doesn't twist. He shifts. And then he's already open and he just pops forward. People tend to turn, just like with that arm and that shoulder, and that makes the rounding thing that I was talking about. All right? Any more? Well, I thank you for listening to me. I have a lot more information I could give you, but in 15 minutes, that's all I could spit out. Let me bring Garrett Gurthie up here for the distance. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Garrett.
Thank you. All right, so when it comes to distance, everything, it all probably comes down to grip first, which Dave went over a little bit on the grips. And grips are whatever's comfortable for you. What's comfortable for me is a little bit modified fan grip, which I learned to do from Climo since he's in my backyard. Instead of keeping it out like that, I tuck it in around the rim. That gives me a little more power. Okay. Now my thumb is going to be probably half a centimeter from the rim, from the thickness of the rim right there. That's just what's comfortable for me. And like Dave was saying, the fatty part of, well, the muscly part, whatever you want to say, should be against flesh with the disc.
So he's just saying that he can't get that distance without that move I showed you. And it's right before you release. If your tissue here feels soft, when you're gripping the disc, you're getting half of what you could be doing. That's what he's trying to get across.
Right. So does anybody have questions on the grips? Anything? Come on, buddy, what you got?
How many fingers on the grip?
Oh, good question. Okay. Well, sometimes I switch it up. Sometimes for distance, I'll put 3 under.
And how much for putting?
For putting, I put all 4 fingers underneath.
He's telling us about right.
But for long distance, sometimes I'll go to 3 because it comes out a lot faster.
What's for upshots?
Upshots, 4 fingers. Good questions. He's not afraid to ask. That's good. But yes, for distance, sometimes I will switch it up to 3. For me, it's not as accurate and just consistent for me. On the course, I'll go 4 fingers all day long because usually you don't need that much distance out on the course.
Well, that was some insightful info on how to improve your disc golf skills. We have to take another break, but when we return, we will have some one-on-one instruction on how to help participants improve their game. And welcome back once again to our coverage at the 2011 PDFO Pro Player Clinic. The pros have already begun to give their one-on-one tutorials, so let's join them, starting with Niko, who's helping local players improve their putting.
That's all arm right there. And the technique on it was good. You said a straight arm, but if you want to create some more momentum, you can use that legs, that back and forth thing that Dave was talking about. I'm back here on my weight right now because I'm just lining up my shot and everything's stern. But as I release my disc, my momentum is actually coming a little bit forward, which is creating that pop. And you need to have a little bit of pop, especially in windy situations. When it starts to get wind, it's hard to ease them in there, so a lot of times you got to use that little bit of extra pop to make sure you're giving it a chance to get there. Like when I first learned putting, I only knew how to spin putt it because that's what I saw and that's what I grew up with. And then eventually, I learned from some top players like King Climo and Dave Feldberg that this pitch style putt was more of a way to go because I'm always pitching it in there instead of trying to spin it, which is creating left and right, and I got all this different movement. That's why the pitch putt is the one that works better for me, because I'm always just pitching it in the basket. After a while, it doesn't seem hard because I've practiced enough of these 25 footers that I know what works. And you have to practice these short putts to build your confidence from the get-go. But I'll show you guys another exercise. You want to use at least like 3 of the exact same putters. I don't always get a chance to do that, but while I'm practicing, I do. I have a stack of 10 putters that I practice with that are all the exact same. And this exercise right here, I'm telling you, this right here can help you build your confidence in your putting. I use it a lot before tournaments. I will line up my shots exactly like I was showing you guys in the routine, that you have to build the confidence to be able to make the longer putts. You have to make the short ones seem easy. And I'm doing the exact same thing every time. But you're noticing I'm lining it up first, and then I'm coming down with that straight line from the center of my body into that basket. I'm creating a line. So basically 10 putters in a line can help you build your confidence from out here. Eventually, if you make enough of these short ones and you practice the long ones, you know that just a little bit of loft is what it needs. You're getting that high release when you're moving your distance back. And a lot of times when players miss, they're missing right or left. But if you do this straight arm technique that it took me a while to learn, you could build the confidence and understand that a good high release is all you need when you get further away from the basket. You can't always go so dead straight on. Sometimes you have to let the frisbee get enough room up here, and then it's gonna fall in the basket.
Tilt that wing down a little. Yep, and actually, remember karate
I
chopping.
saw you.
Like we're actually, yeah, so put that pancake out.
I saw you doing that.
Like that, yeah, and then. Yeah, so that's what you're leaning in, right here. Elbow in, and tilt that down just a little. I'm like this.
Oh, okay.
You know?
And I'm going to release it with the tip down that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
For the most part, I mean, that's a hyzer. You know, if you want it flat here, but this, this I think a Valkyrie will flip.
Okay. Oh, wait. Sideways. Yeah, see, I'm down low. When I throw with my arm out here,
yeah. Sorry.
This is the first time I threw with 2 fingers, too. I saw you do the 1 finger thing. And
yeah, it's
that's
just
me.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I wouldn't even run up. You can either take a step or just stand and throw. And then follow through forward. Headache! Okay, now that was a straight old hyzer. You flatten this out, it should go aim down that line on that road.
Did that happen because I'm down like this?
Yep, and that's,
if I can bring the
that's what you expect.
Okay, is that the shot you?
That's a hyzer.
Is that the shot you normally would play then?
Yeah, I want to throw. Well, I mean, I'm throwing a little bit flatter, but I'm throwing hyzers. You know, that's the most consistent thing. Sometimes, if I'm throwing like a touch shot, I split grip.
That's where you get your accuracy.
Yeah, and the point of this is just that the flight play. If your fingers are both tucked up on one side, there's a lot of play here. You know, and so if one of your fingers is here, it's more likely to be flat. So, and I mean, this is new for me, honestly. I've been doing this forever, so, yeah. But I know it's important for my short game. So. Yeah. All right, so you have all arms. I mean, it went far. It wasn't too wobbly. But I would say that you could use your core more. So I saw you're throwing and you're here. You're high and off balance. I think if you get into it, grind it, kind of. This is an athletic game. You know, you got to be in an athletic position to really pull the power from your body to get a good pop. You know, so I would say get a little bit lower, just a little bit, and then at that point where you're only using your arm, get those hips. So shift your way and twist those hips. Okay? Kind of coming a little, dipping a little bit. You definitely use more of your body. I would say to keep it more simple, you start the disc up here. I would start it exactly where you're trying to throw it. Start it right almost just before that point. And then you'll be able to control the angle better. I mean, you're kind of starting it here and then you're like, and there's so much that happens to the angle there. So if you start just right here, it's nice and easy. And you're only moving from there to there, not all that. It's a way to keep it consistent.
So that you're there. So basically, just like the most problem was just everybody twisting and not. So the only thing I can say.
I'm all twist. I'm not.
All twist, not pushing your hips through. There's that hip move. You come back. You're on your toe. Hips to heel. Hips to heel. To toe. Okay?
Yeah.
So, all fast. If you look at the feet work. Got it?
Right.
Okay.
Moving nothing else, going like that.
Okay.
And pull your shoulder muscle up like that. Feel that?
Yeah.
And but you gotta go to your heel when you do it. Pull it up. Boom! And grind your heel into the ground. Dig with it. Bam! There it is.
No, my stay. No, it's this toe on my hand. On this toe back here. I'm going with it.
No, that was just gonna be.
Okay.
Bam! Yep. Feel that?
Yep.
No, you get here. Now the only thing is you dipped a little bit, so now tilt you up. Only when you come back, you want to be in this position, right there. So more lead. There it is. And, oh, dog, da, da. All right. Yep. There it is. Very easy. See how easy it was to throw the disc? What's your name? Tom. Tom. Nice to meet you. All right. Just do your thing. Sorry, I'm aggressive teacher. I only have so much time with you, so. See, everybody does the same thing, right? Okay, you guys want to know why before I get into fixing you? You guys want to know why? I'll tell the TV at home. This is why everybody does this. It's called ultimate frisbee.
Yep. It screwed me up.
Because in ultimate frisbee, you're only allowed to pivot but hold the foot. And there's no way to pivot from toe to heel biomechanically, using your muscles properly. Get back to toe and not lift onto your toe. That'd be a fault. So everybody that's played ultimate frisbee or taught frisbee has everybody rotating on the toe, holding the position. And then biomechanically, to transfer your muscles, you have to go toe, heel, use the muscles, rotate, and go through. But it would be a foot fault in ultimate frisbee. So even though we love your game, you actually, thanks Ultimate, you gave me a job. Appreciate it.
Well, that's all the time we have for this month's Disc Golf Monthly. We again hope you learn a lot from this to help improve your disc golf game. Join us next month as we bring you coverage at the March of St. Pat's Madness tournament at Rutgers University Disc Golf Course. I'm Carl Cubbage for Disc Golf Monthly, the show that takes you one step closer to the sport of disc golf.